The show, known as Attack on Titan, was not just a TV show. It was a historical documentary. A documentary specifically about the Anakim, Rephaim, and Nephilim giants that used to roam the earth. These are what's known as the Walls, Wall Maria, Wall Rose, and Wall Sina, which specifically reminds me of two great walls from history, the first one being the Great Wall of China. The Great Wall of China is 25.6 feet tall and 13,170 miles long. And as you can see, parts of the brick are cut out for archers to use as posts to fight against foreign invaders. Also, around 400,000 people passed away while creating the Great Wall of China, and many of their bodies were placed inside of the walls. Now, what's interesting about this is that in the show Attack on Titan, we eventually find out that there were titans built inside of the wall. So basically, Wall Maria, Wall Rose, and Wall Sina all have titans inside of them. Just like how the Great Wall of China has a bunch of bodies inside of it. Now, in the Bible, there's also stories about what is known as the Walls of Jericho. And as you can see by this depiction, there's 1, 2, 3 separate walls, just like Wall Maria, Wall Rose, and Wall Sina. We all know the story of Adam and Eve, and how the serpent tricked Eve into eating the apple for knowledge and power. Well, would it shock you to find out in the story of Attack on Titan, a character named Ymir was tricked by a devil-like creature into taking an apple that would give her knowledge and power, just like in the Bible? Now, what most people never notice is that her name was Ymir. Now, Ymir is a frost giant from Norse mythology, a frost giant. Once again, just like the Nephilim giants that used to roam the earth. The most famous story of a human fighting a giant is the story of David and Goliath. For those of you who don't know, Goliath was a Philistine, and the Philistines were one of the bloodlines of the Nephilim giant. David used a hunting slingshot with a giant stone in it to hit Goliath directly in the head and knock him on his back. And then David took that opportunity to decapitate Goliath with a sword. And because Nephilim giants were so much stronger, so much bigger, and healed so much faster than humans, the only way to guarantee that they were defeated is by cutting off their head. Just like how in the show Attack on Titan, the only way to know that a titan is truly dead is by cutting the nape of its neck, which would be severing its spinal cord. Which is basically just like a decapitation, as you're cutting the connection between the brain and the body through the spinal cord. Now, in the show Attack on Titan, the only goal of the Titans was to feast on human flesh. And that's kind of similar to what they were like in real life. It's also believed that the Nephilim giants could smell human blood, which is where the saying of fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman comes from. It's not just from the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. It was because these giants could smell our blood, similar to sharks. Now, in the show, there's also this character named Zeke. Zeke is a scientist with blonde hair and blue eyes, a red armband, and a military uniform that looks like it's from Germany in World War II, which is strange. Almost like he's supposed to depict a German scientist from World War II. Now, Zeke also turns into a titan known as the Beast Titan, so he's half human, half titan. Now, the funny thing about the Beast Titan is it almost looks exactly like how Bigfoot or Sasquatch is depicted. Now, in the Bible, there was a king of Babylon named Nimrod. Now, Nimrod actually became Gilgamesh after he gene-spliced his own DNA with the DNA of Nephilim. Just like how in the show Attack on Titan, certain characters gene-splice their own DNA with the Titans to become half human, half Titan. There's also a warrior in the show known as Captain Levi, who's the strongest character in the show. Now, in the Bible, there's also the tribe of Levi, who's a warrior tribe. In the Bible, there was also the story of Joshua and Caleb and their armies, and how they fought against and killed numerous Anakim giants. Which is why in certain parts of the Bible, it's said that they unalived the men, women, and children. It's because they were not human. They were Anakim giants. With their army, Joshua and Caleb slew thousands of the Anakim race, and even knocked down the walls of Jericho and took it over completely. And the main weapons that they used to defeat the race of Anakim were swords, most likely copper swords. Now, in the show Attack on Titan, they had a military force known as the Scout Regiment. The Scout Regiment was led by Commander Erwin and Captain Levi. And leading their army against the Titans, they slew thousands of Titans. And they slew those Titans by using these two swords here to sever the spinal cord. Just like how in the Bible, Joshua and Caleb led an army to defeat the Anakim. And the main weapons that they used to defeat them were swords. Now, let's just look at this depiction here. This is an actual real-life statue that you can go to that's based off of what the Titans look like in Attack on Titan. Now, look at this real depiction. This is like an actual statue that you can go to in Bali of what the Nephilim giants used to look like. Now, some people actually believe that this is a real-life stuffed Nephilim. But I can basically say without a doubt, the Titans in Attack on Titan were based on the real-life Nephilim. And if you want to learn more about the Nephilim, Anakim, and Rephaim, look into the Apocrypha biblical text, the Book of Enoch. The show Attack on Titan was not just a TV show. It was a historical documentary, part 2. I've learned a whole lot since the last part, thanks to my own research and thanks to a lot of you in the comments. And I'm going to showcase to you what I've learned. Now, the character Ymir Fritz is known as the founding Titan because she was the first Titan ever. Now, what I also found out is that Ymir, the frost giant from Norse mythology, was the first ever giant. So he was the founding giant. Similar to how Ymir Fritz in Attack on Titan is the founding Titan. Now, the show Attack on Titan never explicitly says that Ymir made a deal with the devil to get her powers. But if you pay very close attention to the images that are displayed during the show and during the after credit scenes, it's very deeply implied that that's what happened. As you have a creature here that looks like the Baphomet, Which for those of you who don't know, this is what the Baphomet is, giving Ymir an apple that gives her powers. Very similar to how the serpent tricked Eve into eating the apple in the Garden of Eden. Now in the show Attack on Titan, you also have a character known as Eren Yeager, who is basically a quote-unquote Christ-like figure. And his #1 goal in the show is to save his people. Even if you look at the robe he likes to wear, it's very similar to the robes that Christ allegedly wore. Look at this hand sign that Eren Yeager is making here. It's eerily similar to the hand signs that are made in most of the paintings of the saints. You can even see the middle of his hand is bleeding, almost like he had been nailed to a cross. Even look at this image of Eren Yeager along with Zeke in the spirit world. Look at how he's standing. His arms are outstretched, and what is he standing in front of? He's basically standing in front of a cross of light. Even just look at this imagery here, how he's standing in front of the sun, basically symbolizing how in the Attack on Titan universe, he is the quote-unquote son of God. Now there's a surprising amount of World War II references in the show Attack on Titan, like this weapon here, the German World War II Mauser. And the biggest reference of all of them, this scientist known as Zeke. As you can see here, Zeke is an Aryan with blonde hair and blue eyes. He also has a red armband and a military-style trench coat. I mean, he's literally a World War II German scientist. It's pretty on the nose. Now in the show Attack on Titan, there's literally a Titan serum that if you inject it in someone, it turns them into a Titan. And this Titan serum is used numerous times throughout the show. Now here's where things get really interesting. In the World War II horror movie Overlord, they have a very similar serum. In the movie, they found a science lab that was used for human experimentation. And in that lab, they found out that that serum literally turns people into superhumans. Now, what's really shocking is that the German military in World War II literally tried to make super soldiers. And these super soldiers would have been known as the Ubermensch. And some people believe that they actually might have been successful in creating these super soldiers. Now, remember what I told you in the last part, that Titans from Attack on Titan are based off of the Anakim, Rephaim, and Nephilim giant races that used to roam the earth. And that the king of Babylon, Nimrod, became Gilgamesh after gene splicing his own DNA with the DNA of the fallen, thus making him a quote-unquote demigod. Just like how in Attack on Titan, you have the half-human, half-Titan. Now, you also have, in the show Attack on Titan, something that's known as the Rumbling. Now, the Rumbling is basically when a bunch of gigantic Titans are released to trample over everything on the planet. It's basically like the apocalypse, Armageddon. Now tell me if this Bible verse sounds familiar. I give command, and I bring them. Giants are coming to fulfill my wrath, rejoicing at the same time and insulting. That sounds a lot like the Rumbling, doesn't it? Oh, but that's not all. The Bible also says that in the end times, the earth will be utterly shaken at the end of Revelation. I'm sure you could also say that the earth is rumbling. Well, it seems like we know where the creators of Attack on Titan got their inspiration from, the Bible and history. Now, could it be possible that inside of this vial is the DNA of a Nephilim? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments.